Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Two Have and Two Roll podcast. My name is Oliver. On this show, Robin and myself spoke with Pixie. Pixie is a long-term LARPer and is involved in many LARPs here in the UK. We mainly discuss the Empire LARP system and the nation of Verushka, in which Pixie currently plays. We talk about the Varushkan culture. We talk about the lore behind the nation. This is actually the last, but not the least of the nations that we have featured on our show from the Empire LARP system. I'm going to put up a playlist on YouTube with all those episodes that we have featured each of the 10 nations of Empire. If you are watching this on YouTube, make sure that you give this video a thumbs up. Make sure that you subscribe. That really does help us. If you are listening on your favorite audio platform, leave us a nice review. That's another way to help us. If you do wish to support us or just get in contact with us, the details are in the episode description. With that all out of the way, though, let's get into our conversation with Pixie. Right, cool. We have Pixie here with us. Pixie, when did you well, how long have you been LARPing for?
I've been LARPing since 1996 was my first event.
Wow.
I went as a baby with like my brother, and then like went to CP, and I did CP for ages, and then progressed on from there. Went to different games, and then one day my friends were like, "So we've got a group, Empire, a little nation called Varushka. There's a wiki." And I looked it up and I was like, "Oh, okay." And yeah, I've been there ever since. When it comes to Empire, I have not left.
I didn't realize how long Curious Pastimes have been going. Do you still do Curious Pastimes?
Oh yeah, I still do Curious Pastimes. In fact, it's hopefully part of the 3-week LARP trawl that I've got coming up, starting as of next weekend. Repping Beyond Ragnarok, and then Empire, and then Curious Pastimes, and a weekend off, yes, and then reffing another game called Eldritch Days. So it's going to be a busy 4 weeks.
Yeah, you are a hardcore. Have you always been like that hardcore into LARP? Like that's like
Not really.
From day one? Or?
So obviously I got the bug pretty early on. Like everybody gets, it's the escapism thing. It's the adult make-believe, and like, how can you not love running around pretending to be somebody else for the weekend when all the world is out there and you're in here, and all that matters is you're in here. And then I started branching out into other games, like in my early 20s, playing like smaller games, and then I got invited to ref a game called Age of Ether, which was a steampunk game. And then just my friendship circle just networked from there, and like some of the people I call family are like more family than my actual family. And I only see them 4 or 5 times a year. Last year, for instance, we did 5 weddings, including our own, all of them LARPers. All of them, including up in the mountainous regions in Scotland. So yeah, like it's just crazy how quick it's all time's gone. But like I go and I played like loads of different games. Like there used to be a game called Nexus, which was an airsoft game, which was set in the near future. There was like evil corporations versus like rebellions, and it was run by my friend James and Matt from Birmingham, and that was a lot of fun. And then like I like my more traditional fantasy games or like historical style games. So
so you got chucked in like as a kid then, because a lot of people we speak to are like that they come in through like tabletop, or they come in through like wargaming, or they come in through airsoft or something like that. But it sounds like you were pretty much this is LARP.
Yeah, my brother took me along and he thought I would enjoy it. Like he was doing it from like the early 80s. Went to a game called Treasure Trap, which was one of the first founding games for LARP in the country. And then like Lorraine Trust started their games, and my first event was at Drum Hill, which is a really, really old site. And I remember just following my brother around like all the time, because he was my responsible adult, even though he wasn't that responsible. And then like I just grew up in the games, you know, and I just grew up and I enjoyed it, and more. And then it got to the point when I got to like 17, 18, and like I'm making my way sort of by trains by myself, doing like 3-hour train journeys from Cambridgeshire, just like right down to the south coast and things like that. Or up in like Easter Run games. That Wigan is one of the most northerly sites that I've been to, which is up by Manchester. Ironically, that's where we do Beyond Ragnarok as well. We do all our events there. But like it's like my mum used to, like, I think one year my mum and my dad went on holiday to Wales, and they took me up to Wigan from Cambridgeshire all the way up to Orrell. And they went over to Wales for the weekend because it was a Thursday to a Monday event. And on Monday, like, they're waiting in the car park in my dad's Jag, just watching everybody come down. And my mum has said something that's a line that's always stuck with me. It looked like a load of refugees just coming out.
Amazing.
And like, everybody's got their gear on, and you've got like the tractor coming down with all the stuff, all people's kits on. And like, they've always known about it, they never really understood it, but then my mum was always into it. And my dad was just, when he was with us, he was just like, well, it's harmless, he's enjoying himself.
Because I guess
he's coming home looking a bit hungover.
I imagine the only thing they would know would be what you and your brother would tell them, like in the 90s, early 2000s. I guess there wasn't really much. I mean, there's not that much now online about what LARP is, especially like separate systems, so I guess there wasn't that much information.
There was a concerning incident at school once when they got called in, because like they asked us at school, what did you all do on your summer holidays? And I started saying, well, I ran around beating up orcs with my brother. And they were quite concerned about those comments, and like they called my parents in, and they was like, no, he actually did go and do that. They went camping and played in a make-believe world. And they were beating each other up.
The satanic panic is real. They think they're in a fantasy world. No, they're actually in a fantasy world. It's all okay. So did you play PD's other games then previously?
No, I came straight to Empire. As I said, like, my friends were like, just come, you'd enjoy it. And and I've been there ever since. And I've had the pleasure to watch Varushka grow from when I first started. It used to be like one of the smallest nations, but like it's just, especially I would say from like 2018, just bloomed out.
What position is it currently? Is it must be kind of mid-tier now, kind of size?
Definitely mid-tier. Yeah, definitely mid-tier, because if we're not looking at like force weightings like on the battlefield, we do have quite significant numbers. Like our nation's part of the field is always camped out. There's a lot of kids in the nation, which is also, as somebody who's grown up in LARP, I love seeing the kids around. Like one of my friends, Andy, and his partner Lucy, who he used to be my boyer before I went off and started my own veil. He brought his daughter to the first event, and it's 7:30 in the morning, and I'm talking to one of the other new players who's also a mum, and all I hear in the morning is their little go, oh, hiya. And it's a really surreal thing to hear, but it's just so nice to hear, like, because you see the kids get into it way more than the adults at times, and it's so like, lovely.
It helps so much with the immersion though, doesn't it? Like having all the kids there and just being like you said, like so into the game and just so involved in it. You just feel like you're in a little world with them all.
Well, you get like subtle little jokes as well. So like my friend Ben, who's one of the senators, he plays this senator called Vuk Wolf Eater. Okay. Now, one of the younger lads, like one of the kids was there, and like they call themselves Wolf, like Little Wolf. And I was sitting there going, as somebody who really likes the wolf side of our half magic, I was like, so Wolf Vuk Eater, my egregore smiling, the mum smiling, and we're like, okay, the child's got a name for life now. Didn't tell Vuk about it, so if Ben's watching this,
nice.
There you go.
So you mentioned that the wolf side of your half magic. What do you mean by that? What's the?
So we've got several sides towards our half magic. A lot of the half revolves around like warding of roads and keeping the wolves at bay, but I know Taz, who plays our grandmother, one of our egregores, normally looks really spooky, but she's really lovely. We'll say the iconic line of, you don't always have to stab the wolf. There are some Varushkans that believe the wolves are as important as what the wardens are, and with wolves, it's like a general term. So you could have anything from Mora, which are shape-shifting bird people, to what the biggest wolves that are known, like your common plague wolves. I like to say common because they're quite common in places like Microba, one of our territories, or even higher than that. And then you got like the sovereigns, and like then there's normally like one sovereign per territory, or there might be one sovereign linked to a vale, and the vale is like a township almost, or a village, where groups are come from, and a lot of groups have backgrounds to do with a certain sovereign, so they put it in their group background, and PD are like, yeah, you can have that. And normally it's a deal that you do with them, like to put one of the most famous sovereigns is actually how Verushka became Varushka. First there was originally the Vard, and then there was the Ushkans. The Vard were fearless warriors similar to the Steiner. A joke I have with one of the Wintermark egregores where the Vard came first. Steiner are just our children.
You're similar to us.
Well, it was because there's on a little sub note, there was a part with the Jotun, the Vard, and the Steiner, where they did all something called burying the hatchet, and it was at the Peace Stone to stop the wars between the three of them. There was a time where there was an infamous sovereign called Alderai the Fair, who was trying to take over the empire, but Varushka wasn't in the empire properly at this point. But he tried to take over the empire by fear and control, because nobody could be unified unless they were all bound to his will, and that was his belief. So he had a load of followers called the Volodny, which are also to us kind of wolves, like they don't have hearts and things like that. Like, it's quite crazy. All this is on the wiki, by the way, so I'm trying to memorize as much as possible. But it ended up the Ushkans who are wise magic users, and like they sided with some of the empire, and then they hunted down Alderai in a load of woods, which is actually, there is a boar seat, weirwood boar seat called the Hunt of Alderai the Fair, which is actually an imperial position, not a national position. So it's tied to the area where Alderai fell, and then all the Volodny just went like that and ran away, and now they're all in different parts of the empire, hiding away, plotting and scheming, like evil, nasty wizards they are, apparently.
Oh man, they're all so deep, but that like behind all those kind of names and things like that, you'd never know. So the veils, are they your they're your like your groups,
so they'd
right?
be to the Dornish, it'd be our versions of houses. To the Wintermark, it'd be their versions of halls. You know, like an earl or a thane would lead a hall or a house. We have what's called boyars. The boyars are in charge, essentially making sure their people survive the winter, most definitely, and do the best interest of their vales. So you will have like normally like small little towns or villages. Like my vale is currently in Ossium, post job, and you know, like we have a whole thing of where we offer hospitality to wolves and wardens alike. So as long as they don't break that hospitality, they won't be eaten by the wolves that lurk all around.
So is that
natural
is that the main reason for the hospitality? Because my experience in Varushka is limited in my first year at Empire, but luckily I was happy and naive enough when I went into a Varushkan tent and I was offered food. I took it. I took a big gobstopper, put it in my mouth, and then proceeded to roar like this. And I was like, "What an idiot! Why did I do that?" Then I later found out that it was a good thing I did that. So is that what that's?
Yeah. So it's mainly to protect us from wolves. Even with wardens up, some wolves may find a way around. And once you're bound by the law of hospitality, they cannot act in an aggressive manner. You know, if you do break hospitality, there's something called you're given the road. Normally you're given a bit of food and a drink and you are to leave. But if you then persistently don't, then some of the Vard side might come out and somebody might put an axe in you. But like, it's just 8 crowns and assault charge I heard last time. So, you know.
So there are like settlements in Varushka, like, 'cause obviously the Vales are your settlements.
Oh yeah.
The road, but like, were the Varushkans like a traveling people or something? Because it's a lot about like the road and.
So the roads are essentially the law is the walls are always built inside the roads. So we ward our roads to keep essentially so you can travel safely between Vales. Winters are very harsh, night times can be even harsher. This is why the wardens go out, and you'll see them at every event. Every day they'll go out and they'll ward the camp, so as to protect the people inside. We have in Varushka, we have 5 territories. We have Volomarts, we have Karov, we have Karsk, we have Mikrova, and then we now have Ossium. So it's all of these territories are then broken down. There's some larger towns, there's some smaller towns, and there's Vales within those towns. There are some Vales that we don't even know that are now creeping out of the woodwork because they've been misted away because of the sovereign keeping them safe away from everybody else. So nobody knew of their existence, and suddenly they have merged. But the importance of roads is importance to the people, because if we don't have these roads, I can't take my wares to the next Vale to sell. And if these roads aren't warded, or they're not walled, or if you stray off from the roads, then you'll most likely get eaten by wolves. It's that grim melancholy that a lot of us have. I think it's the easiest way to describe it.
That was my first experience in Varushka anyway. That was the first thing I was told was about the roads, as I was sitting drinking a lot of mead. So again, I'm glad I accepted the mead.
Yeah, it's part of the people as well. Like, even though some, especially myself, play quite grim, determined characters, because there's some Varushkans believe in what's called the hard choice, which is no matter what the cost is, you will make that hard choice. One of my hard choice examples was I got cursed for giving another nation opportunity to preach to their own kinds. It was to the Imperial Orcs, to welcome them in, to welcome their preachers in to preach to the Orcs of Ossium when I was the senator, so they could take or give them the choice of where they went. Now a young Orc preacher comes around, and he's talking, and myself and another Varushkan called Father Drakov offered a load of liao. We're not men of money, right? We're not traders. We were priests, so we had a lot of liao. They're about to have a mandate, so we gave that over, and then it got interpreted as charity. I would say that's prosperity, but that's my personal opinion. Next thing I know, I'm getting cursed at midnight at the hearth fire for this action by one of the covens at the night market, and I'm thanking them for it, and the Orcs are looking at me going, why are you thanking us for it? And my egregore was like, I know why. I was like, just helping me, it's fine. I'll take it. It's my hard choice. I wanted to give them a choice of where they went, but it's fine. But it's very governed by hard choice and rules. That's very much the notion.
So what's the night market then? Is that an event or festival or something?
Yeah, so we have a few festivals. The next one will be the Festival of Zoria, and the weaving of the loom. A lot of it's to forget about those that we've lost. The night market is possibly my favorite. It happens at the later end of the year. We have a day market, and then we have a night market. So the day market, everybody will come around and they'll see the wares, but the night market is where strange deals, strange things, and can be sold and happen. Everybody's got their own agendas, everybody's got their own things, but essentially the whole camp becomes a marketplace. Everybody's trying to sell you something, whether it's in-game resources, whether it's a hot drink by a fire, whether it's stew cooked by an egregore, whether it's even just a fortune-telling reading. One of my personal favorites I've ever seen was done by Phil, my friend Phil, who plays the Boyo of the Vorazi. And he did this in 2019. During the day, he was selling wares, and at night, he was walking around with a big chalkboard, and on it said, "Ask me anything," and then a price. But because the night market can be cheeky, can be mischievous, he was giving out useless answers with like double entendre answers. So you might ask him, how do I become a great warrior? And he'll turn around going, start off by not getting stabbed, or duck the blows. You asked him a question, he's giving you an answer, but he was playing into the mischievous side of it. So it's a very fun festival. It's a festival where coin can be made, and then those coins will go back to the Vales, or they'll go out further, go to Imperial Project, whatever. But everybody gets to do something, everybody gets to apply a trade, and it's part of the traditions, which is really nice. You'll see the Festival of Zoria. they'll be walking around with almost like a giant puppet. It's the easiest way to describe.
I'm familiar with the puppet.
I've seen and then that will lead on to the weaving of the loom, and so everybody gets to put a bit into the loom, and those who have fallen will be remembered. But I have to say the night market is personally my favourite because there's just so much opportunity for role play. I was selling stories last event. I was buying stories of other people to tell them to other people. And then I was buying their stories to tell other people. So I wasn't actually making any money. I was just passing the money around the field. Because I'm just like, if you got a good story, if you've got a story with like a lesson or a funny story or a story of tragedy, I'll give you a story for a story, but I'll also pay you a couple of rings for it. And then and it just goes around. And they're selling me stories and I'm buying stories. And I was just passing money around. I didn't actually make any money that night, but it was fun. That's what it's all about at the end of the day, isn't it?
Yeah. Is storytelling like quite a prominent part of the nation? Because Robin and I, we were looking for we were looking for love stories at E3
E2 and E3.
We split up, went to completely different nations, and we both ended up in Verushka within like an hour. They were like, go to Verushka for stories, and somehow we ended up there, and everyone was willing to tell stories in Verushka.
Yeah, so stories is quite a big part of the culture, same as song. One of our most famous stanzas happens to be the Rusty Compass. There were a few in Onfield. I think like last event we ended up doing a street party on the corner of Dawn and the Winter Mark, and that was a lot of fun. And suddenly it started off with just us, and then like 30 people, then 50 people. And it just wholesome fun. But like the stories play quite a lot of part because there's obviously a lot of rules to follow, like not straying from the path. And a lot of our stories, very much like Grimm's Brothers, has that almost like that meaning behind it of the ultimate lesson, but where, for instance, to play on it, where the lesson of Goldilocks is not to steal, the Varushkan version of that would be, well, Goldilocks got eaten by the bears. And like it didn't even advance any further. She was there. She got eaten by the bears. Like the bear's house.
Exactly, like the Brothers Grimm, but it hasn't been modernized for Western audience, like modern Western audiences. Yeah, it's not been Disneyfied yet.
Or you get like the tale of Hansel and Gretel, and it's actually a poor old lady who has a house invaded and ends up getting cooked herself. Like, that again, it's that melancholy, grim sense of humor.
Yeah. They so like Verushka really gives off that. Yeah, it does give off that vibe of like, we live a harsh way of life. Like but you in Verushka, you seem to kind of keep that when you're at Anvil, because you talk to the Navarre, and the Navarre are supposed to be like, they'll tell you, oh yeah, we live a hard life on the trods and it's crap, and then Anvil is like our Christmas, and that's why they're all wild at Anvil and happy. But the Varushkans, it might just be my perception, but the Varushkans are very much, they're still like, you still do your warding and things like that.
It's just Friday. Like, that's how most Varushkans look at it. It's just another day. Are we going to survive the night? Are we going to survive the winter? Are we going to survive the seasons? Because you never know what's out there and what's going to come for you. Whether you've broken a deal, whether you've crossed somebody wrong, whether somebody's done another deal where you could be at the expense of it. It's always spending most of your life looking over your shoulder and making sure you don't annoy anybody. That's one of the lessons we learned.
Like when I went into Verushka, I was obviously looking around for stories and things, and I was asking about stories of true love, and I was told about a potential story. So I was waiting for these people to come back when a lady was sitting outside her tent, and she was like, I hear you're looking for stories. Come sit down. And I sat down, and she told me the story, and it was about love, but it was heartbreaking, and there was these rules, and there was a monster, and there was sacrifice, and at the end I was just like, that was definitely a story of love, but it was so heartbreaking, and I can't believe it. And she said, well, no dear, in Verushka we have to make choices. And a mother in the winter may have to choose to allow one child to perish so that the rest may strive. And I have never forgotten this conversation with this woman since then. I've just been like, oh, it was just so heavy. And
it all falls back to the hard choice again, and that's what it is. The Verushka is a people of hard choices. Some may not make them, some may take the easy way out, but the majority you'll find will. Like, we also don't suffer fools lightly, not to be confused with the Fool, even though they can do one as well, but that's personal. But like as the foolish that come around, we don't suffer them lightly, because of the fact that a foolish man might, or a foolish woman, or a foolish citizen might end up being the end to your veil. Like they may go out and they may get way over their head and bring something way worse back. So it's we don't suffer the fools lightly. Only a fool trusts a fool. I believe the old common phrases.
Yeah, it was. I definitely got that impression. Yeah, trying to lean into my what at that time wannabe noble knight errant who has had a very easy life, and bouncing into the Varushkan tent with my head full of flowers, being hello, and yeah, I definitely got a vibe of okay, yeah, obviously come in, but yeah, you know, tell us what you want, tell us who you are and why you want to know this information.
I mean, my character Belikov is still trying to understand glory. When we took Ostium, the other generals were like, you should learn about glory, because I was General of the Golden Axe when we took it, and I've got Orzel, who I call little cousin, because obviously Jeff is much taller than me. And they're all trying to teach me about glory, and I'm just sitting there going, it's not basically courage? Is that not it? Is it not loyalty? Like, I'm trying to pin it to virtue, and I'm just not understanding it. I'm not understanding the whole thing, even though Pixie very much does understand the whole glory purpose. Belikov does not. He still has not got his head around it, no matter how many Dornish nobles, Yoa folk, troubadours tell me. I'm just like, seems a bit foolish, but each to their own.
That's the cool part of the game, though, isn't it? It gives you those little things to kind of cling on to. For like us, it was like, like true love, and having our idea of true love, and having all these different concepts. Literally, just a simple thing about going, oh yeah, go and ask all the nations about true love and ask for a story. That's all we had to do. But it was amazing, the different all the different ways all the different nations saw it. Was fascinating. The player meta, the players like had clung up like the brass coast with their contracts. You know, it was just like and being able to play that to be like, because I was similar to yourself, Pixie. I was like, well, this for my character that doesn't make any sense. Like, so try like being like, I don't what a contract. You know what you know, why would you not do it if you didn't want to? You know, if there wasn't any love involved. Oh well, and it's just a concept that I just couldn't get my head around in character.
I mean, for my character background, I have quite a grim story to do with a backstory to do with love, but like that's definitely a story I say for the field. But yeah, it's for me. I live like Belikov lives and dies by the hard choice, no matter what he's done. When he's been a general, when he's been a senator, when he's been a priest, even just being out in the field with the heroes of Anvil, it's always about the hard choice. And I like to see that reflected sometimes. Like a lot of people will talk about imperial positions, like how they make such impact on the game. They can be an avenue to that. However, I would also counter the Duvtag raid, for instance, one of the first major raids of its time on the Salt Islands on the Grendel. And it was all done by people with fleets and with military units, and and now we're seeing that more as a common thing. But some people are making, to his mind, the hard choice of, I'm not going to send my unit to support an army this season. I'm going to send them on possibly one of the most suicidal missions I can send them on. But it became a resounding success and created massive impact in the game. Another one I can think of is the Liberty Pact. That was created by players basically without positions, and they're ending slavery. But they're not just ending slavery on a small scale. They're getting foreign nations to do it, and even the Fool have like started releasing slaves. So it shows the impact and choices and the role play can be made on no matter what scale in the game you are. You just need to apply yourself.
Absolutely. Everyone and anyone can impact the game in whatever way they want to. Like you just said there, like no matter if you are like really new, or you've been there for a long time, or you've got a high up position, or you've got no position, you can like make that impact, which is just so incredible to like hear how these things happen. Because like what you just said there with the end in slavery, I didn't realize that was kind of how that actually came about either. So I was like, oh, that's amazing. Like that's actually just done by people making it happen.
it was a group of players talking in a tent, thinking this could be a good idea, and then them using the avenues such as senators to get it brought up in the Senate, priests to raise it in the synod. One of my friends who plays Eska Crowspeaker, one of the founders of the Liberty Pact, she didn't hold any form of position at the time. She just believed in it so much. And then they used the ambassadors to talk, because like normally they can't go and meet with these foreign dignitaries, but they're wheeling and dealing and getting onto these meetings. You know, it's the same as when PD do their plot town encounters. I kept getting handed them in my pack, and I would just give them out to new players because I'm just like, A, busy man, B, you're new, like go have some fun, go do something really cool in this tent encounter. And after all these years, last event, I finally did one myself.
Yeah,
so we had.
What was that like?
Oh, it was amazing. So we had, for a bit of background context, one of the archetypes we have is what's called a wise one. Normally, traditionally, what they do is they elect us senators, but their role is to advise boyars and advise those of their veil the wisest choices to make. They can't walk that path for you, but they can nudge you possibly in the right way if you want to go.
Yeah,
and we had a wise one, and it was possibly the most Varushkan encounter I've ever encouraged, and it was beautifully written plot. It was beautifully set out, and she's coming talking about how her boyar is stuck at, like, he needs somebody, heroes, to come and help travel with her, to come reason with him. Didn't get very much of a brief from her. All we knew was he had lots of food, like their veil had been very prosperous with food, but he had no wood. So without wood, they can't light their fires, so they will not survive the winter. So, and there was a fool there was some other bits there, but we'll get to that point. So some of us gathered around, some newer players, and myself and another boyar went, and we went with the mindset of, we'll just bully him into the right choice. This is how it's going to work. And we've trekked through, we've gone to the Sentinel Gate, the big arch, and we've gone through and time down. They've taken us around the side of Monster. And we went into this big tent, and inside was a full marketplace, like stalls with, and this is the thing that blew my mind. It was actually real food. It wasn't wax food. It was real food.
What?
And they're selling us stuff, but it's not just the sights you're seeing in this tent, and you actually feel like you're in a veil. Like, they put this wooden background like up on the back, and then they had this little sub room, and like they had like a little waiting room on like one side of the market, but you got like the sense of smell, you got the sense of like sight, and you got hearing. So like everything's there. And then we find out that this boyar is scared to make the right choice for his people. And the choice that he's facing is a fool who will offer him all the wood he wants in exchange for just food. A Mora, which is, as I've described, a particularly nasty wolf, saying it will give him all the wood he wants as long as he permanently takes down the wards, which is not wise.
No. Yeah.
No. And then there was a cultist of Wendigo, who was offering to basically use children as firewood, from what I could get from it. And we found out there was a cultist of Wendigo going, they're not allowed here, full stop, get rid of him. Honestly, get rid of him. Like, so he dismissed that. And then like the Mora, and we literally had to convince this boy, because this boy was so prejudiced against the fool because of the connection that they had. And us trying to describe to him, look, we have to sometimes make this hard choice. We sometimes have to ally with those that we don't want to ally with. And I was using examples of Ossium and like how if it wasn't for the fool, like we may not have been as successful, you know, in taking it. Like they took a part of the territory whilst myself and the Dornish just stormed across the rest of it. But if it wasn't, like with their 5,000 troops, we might not have got it. And then it was this, and then there was the Mora, and we was looking at him going, what are you doing? If you take down your wards, your veil will not survive, because anything can come through, absolutely anything. Your people will not survive. It's better to make a deal with the devil you know than the devil you don't. So get rid of the Mora. And, you know, this boy just looked at it like, whoever played him, it was just amazing. Like his top-notch role play skills. Like he was clearly a long-term LARPer, but it was a bit at the end, which I'll get into, which really I kind of walked away going, oh my god, that was just brilliant. It was perfect. But like he looked at the Mora and he was like, you heard him, go, just go. And I was like, before he goes, offer him some food, please. Like before you, the Wendigo cultist don't care about, has no power here. But before that Mora goes, offer him some food. Otherwise, those that go out the wards could be at risk. So he offered him some food and sent the Mora on his way. Now he was sitting. He then just went. So his wife went, you make the decision. I don't want it, right? And so it was almost like a spoiled child, who was put in a position of power. He loves the shiny baubles, but he doesn't know how to handle it. And he went out back, and there was my friend Jason, who plays a Boyer, and myself. And like all the other Varushkans are back there, and they can hear everything, because as we all know, canvas is indeed not soundproof.
It's definitely not soundproof.
It's really not.
And fence panels are also subjected to that rule. They are also not soundproof, and that's what separated. And we found him, and he was in floods of tears. I don't know how he did it. I know how I do it. I think of like one of the most saddest things I can, like in cry on command, you know. But like I don't know whatever power he had, but he was full floods of tears, and it got to the point where Jason looked at me and went, "We're not making any progress." But I could read his thoughts, and I was like, okay, you're right. So let's bully a Boyer. And I just sat down. I looked him dead in the eyes, and I went, you need to Boyer up. You need to lead your people. You have a responsibility. Stop passing the buck to your wise one. It's your job. Do it. Make the hard choice. Make sure your people can survive. Go out there and lead. Because if those people think you cannot lead them, you won't be Boyer for much longer. And then who knows what accidents will happen on the road, because accidents happen on the road all the time. Who knows what will befell you. Now go out and be a strong leader that you can be. I will come back after the winter and we will revisit this conversation. And he went out and and we left them talking to the fool, making this deal for wood and food. And we left, and all of us, like there was about 6 of us, we came back through that Sentinel gate. And like we looked at the hospital and went, yeah, we survived, it's fine. You know, because we didn't even know if we was going to be walking into a death trap. That was the main reason I went, to protect all of them lot. And we're like, it was just, I've got an axe, I've got my armor, I've got enough hits. Like, let's, you know, there's just a single winter skin tonic and we'll go, you know. And we walked back out and we just felt so victorious, because we know we left that situation and made somebody realize the betterment for their people. But like the initial bit of it all was done by brand new players. Cannot stress that enough. You know, me and Jason were just sitting there guiding and just putting little prompts in, and like leaning over going, that cultist of Wendigo really shouldn't be here. And if he stays here, I might kill him. Because technically we shouldn't, it's illegal to give him hospitality. So I might kill him.
It
was a lot of fun.
I mean, I was getting chills just kind of hearing about that. Like those encounters. So that's like the 3rd story we've had from one of those encounters. All of them have been amazing. However, like I didn't even know they existed. Until we started speaking to people. So it's amazing to me that, and just hearing like your story there about how much effort they put in to a Varushkan focused encounter for a small amount of players is amazing, because
we know they reuse the set pieces that they set up. So for instance, the same market we went to was reused for an Eternal market. It's basically if an NPC comes up to you and not a proper character and says, come through the Sentinel gate with me, sometimes just accept and go, because you never know, you might have like the best encounter in the world, you know. They're not normally like, this one wasn't scripted. It wasn't in the Winds of Fortune. It wasn't put in somebody's player pack. You know, it was just an NPC walking into our camp who was Varushkan, but none of us knew him.
Right. So it wasn't even prompted like through a player pack or anything. Oh my god.
No, it was a wise one who came asking for help. They literally walked into the camp just after we did the welcome at 6 o'clock, explained the story, and loads of us were like, how many can go? How many can go? How many can go? Right, we'll take some new people, we'll take some experienced people, and we'll go there just for prompts. It'll be fine. I'm going just in case it all goes wrong. so we can try and get out.
That sounds incredible. Like I had no idea, like somebody literally just, an NPC literally just came over, which is like, yes, come through the gate with me. You know, I knew that they could come in the player packs. I had no idea that could happen until now, though.
It does happen. It's just like if you're in your nation, it's key that I like to think it's key to know anybody anyway, like everybody at least. So one of my philosophies stems from one of my friends, Dodger, who's sadly no longer with us. He was actually the first ever Wintermark egregore. And a lesson he taught me a few good lessons. He was the most bardiest bard you'll ever meet. But spend 5 minutes with everybody. Tell other people's stories, never sing your own stories. And like that's something I live by, like as a LARPer, because it's raising people up with you, not raising above them. Now you can get characters that are like, no, screw you, I'm gonna just take all the power, and that's fine. But like as a LARPer, I like to enable everything around me. Like to put a more silly spin on it. Rosa, who plays my niece in game, who's the current Senator of Ossium, she was getting courted by our friend Charlie, and she's the preceptor. So their job is to organize all the priests in the National Assembly, make sure everybody goes, because we're very big on voting on primacy with our motions, so we get all of our priests to go down, vote on that one motion, and we get it closed there and then, like it's a big and clever way. Then you haven't got motions risking of failing, because you've already got the primacy vote, you've got the majority of your National Assembly going, but we agree with that. So what we do is we have something called Primacy Club. Dracoff will normally take a big old cake, put it on the end, and we have like 4 or 5 motions, all the priests in a row, and we'll just keep recycling. They're all voting on each motion, and we're closing them as we're going. Now, I never envied Charlie for their job, because, you know, it's trying to herd cats, really, isn't it? Like trying to grab all these people, like they really want to do the priest game. You're like, well, you need to come to national. You know, like these are big things for our nation. They were courting, and they told me, and the first thing I said is, "What is your intentions with my niece?" in that classic Varushkan accent, and I have had my balls busted as a priest before I gave up my congregation and became a preacher. I've had my balls busted over and over and over again. And they were hiding behind their boya, and I'm like, let's talk a dowry. What are you paying for my niece's hand in marriage? And it got to the point that they're trying to literally crawl away by the half fire, crawl out the back tent. Everybody's in stitches, and it was a nice little bit of role play between me and Charlie. But everybody got involved, and it was the epic moment from the other Eva when they went, "Who told Belikov?" And I was like, You told me that this was a thing. You told me, not anybody else. You did. So what is your intentions with my niece? And it just became a good fun. Like there's a game I play with Orzel, because Orzel used to be Varushkan before they jumped over the door. And they've got a game based on an old Monty Python game. Well, it's an old Monty Python scene. And it's essentially or back in my day. Right, so the game it's the free Yorkshireman, right? So, but what it is, it's in my veil, and it's how much you can one up somebody else, and they taught it to a few of us, and we just made it large in the nation back home. And I've got somebody going, it's so nice to walk around Verushka, and all we're hearing, well, in my veil, the walls are so big they'll crush your house. Crush your house, rubbish. In my veil, it's silly, grim humor, you know. Even down some of the songs. I remember one battlefield we came off, we lost quite a few, and I'm proud to say we've got a lot of talented musicians in Varushka. A lot of talented musicians, and Helen pulled out her big squeeze box and played one of the most somber songs ever. And I'm sitting there going, at this point I was cursing. I couldn't feel emotion unless I wasn't able to feel happiness unless other people were in sad or pain around me. So I can't role play being sad, because this is legit making me sad, but I'm really happy at this. so great. Like keep this up, because everybody else is crying, everybody else is sad, and I'm feeling great joy from it. But it's just little moments like that. It's little moments that I enjoy.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a it's not a single player game, is it? You know, it's the more the more people that actually you know, do the thing, the easier it is for everyone to LARP. Like you were saying,
100% sharing the burden.
Exactly. So like you were saying about new players, if everyone else, like, you don't feel silly if everyone else is doing it, and the more everyone else does it, the easier it is for everybody to LARP. So
I also feel like, because Empire is such a large game, it's insanely big when you think about the terms of people, especially last year, and the boom post the longest long dark, and everybody's coming back and they're a bit rusty on it, but then you've just got so many people that have come, and that's not something to be daunted about, because I like to encourage, especially from my own mentality of, we were all that lost child once. We were all I don't know what's going on. I don't quite know what to do, so it's just nice just to talk to people and go, and like, one of my key tactics when I hit the field, because when I played a priest of the way, I deliberately go back, and like, some laughers will see this as a sin, but I don't really care. I would deliberately go up and ask people their backstory, because Empire is the one game where you can just feed off it so much. And because I've now taken an interest in you, we're now friends. So my network has expanded. So now I know a guy who knows a guy who could rob a guy if I need that guy robbed, or murder a guy if I need that guy murdered, or come and help me on the fight, or come, I now need this resource to help out a really important project. Well, I now know a guy who can do that, or at least can sell me a prosperous price. I don't have to always rely on those keystones that you get accustomed to.
And you minimize that I don't know, like I suppose competitive nature that isn't really supposed to be there in the game. Like, for example, if you have, if you go on a skirmish, a lot of people will complain about this. They're like, oh yeah, we trying to go on the skirmish, and then these random Navari show up, and it was a bit awkward, and they didn't know the plan. It's just like, well, you know what's easier, if you go and make friends with a ton of Navari stridings, and when they show up, you're like, oh, hey, it's you. Heck, here's the plan.
I've had more moments on the battlefield where I have been picked up from either near death or serious injury from somebody who wasn't from Varushka. And then I've deliberately gone out and sought them afterwards, normally to go graffiti on their soul, because testimonies are fun, it makes people feel nice and clever, and it's only Liao to do 2 words, and you get to do like this whole big spiel in your role play and make them feel important. They've just got a cool name, so on their soul that they can take from the labyrinth.
So, all right, so mechanically, how does that work? So
the testimony skill is a priest skill. Course 1 Liao. You can put up to 2 words onto somebody's soul. So if they then have an insight done on them, which is another priest skill, that will be one of the first things that will show. It's quite fun trying to construct sentences on people's souls. And then that will be carried through to them with when they go through on the labyrinth. So on the next run, like, it just keeps going and going and going and going. And it's, for me, I find it's more of a role play enabling skill than anything, because you're a very bad person, but I'm going to put something to mark why you are, because you're a nation betrayer, or you are the wolf eater, so I will put that on your soul, and it just makes people feel special. You grab a ref, they get their little iPad out, and then they'll put that on the account. So when you go on your account, then you'll see that's on your soul.
See what's written on your soul.
But testimonies aren't consensual. We'll say that. So you can literally just walk up behind people and just write on their soul and then just walk away. What? And somebody needs... Yeah. You don't need to consent to testimonies. But to then get it removed, you then need to find somebody who's got the testimony skill. Normally a way priest is the best way to go, because unlike other skills like consecrations or auras, a way priest can't make them, but they can take them away. Right. And I've had so much fun when, ironically, one of the Crimson Reapers who I know you've had on recently. This was actually their old Prince Drogon had to fulfill a dead reckoning. And the group that they were going to go do it on had essentially their tent hallowed in loyalty. And he was like, "You're a way priest. You can remove that, right? We'll pay you coin." I was like, "You don't need to pay me coin. You can give me the liao for it. And a prosperous donation is always welcome." And we walked in, and they're all celebrating, and they've got this really cool thing on their tent. And I was walked in with a ref, and I was like, "No, you don't." And he just walked out. I was essentially already doing my vocals as I was walking into their tent. Like, you just point in, I'm being flanked by about 4 of them, and I just walked in and went, "No." The big lammy got taken down by the ref, and then suddenly he's giving them the brief of, "Oh yeah, you no longer feel courageous. You no longer feel courageous." Why? Because that hooded ne'er-do-well just walked in and possibly did something. Like, were you listening?
That.
I'm just picturing that. I'm all like partying away. You just walking in and being like, "Nope."
Well, to my character is there was a deal that was broken, because that's fundamentally what a dead reckoning's from. And again, breaking deals to a Varushkan is very bad. So of course I'm going to help my fellow citizens out, because I'm an imperialist as well as a nationalist. I'm there for like the greater good and all of that.
Yeah.
They wronged my friends. I'm going to help my friends. Not illegal. I'm not going to get pulled up in front of a magistrate for it. I'm not even going to get inquisited for it.
Yeah, what are they like, the Crimson Reapers? Oh man,
good eggs.
Yeah. Yeah. So you, how long have you been? You sounds like you've been playing the same character for like a long time.
Yeah, I've been Mormald, which is slightly long ago now. I've lost count. I went in as like an eager-eyed priest, thinking, "Oh my God, it'd be a chance." Like, what was the position? It was positioned away. I think it was Chancellor. I didn't want to be a cardinal.
Okay.
I wanted to be the guy that essentially worked for the cardinal.
Okay, yeah.
And like be the dog's body, and then like I didn't even go to the like get myself elected or anything. And then like my friend who was playing my brother became general, and I became adjutant. And then I became general, and then like then I became a senator, and like it just rolled on through. But like last year, I got the honor of doing a surprise on my entire nation, because I wasn't at event 1 or event 2, because it clashed with other LARPs that I was at, LARPs that I ref at, so it was like a priority thing. And my friend Rosa was actually the only one who knew. And I paid an on-the-gate price ticket on the Saturday. So I wasn't even there on the Friday yet, because I hadn't seen most of these nerds since before COVID. Yeah. So, and there are a lot of people in Verushka and across the field that I love as people, and I really missed, and because it was so close to my house, and Rosa helped me essentially financially get there, and it was nice to, and I walked. So my wife dropped me off at the very front gate.
Oh, the very front
the cattle grids.
Oh, yes. The very front gate.
Yeah. I turned up on site in kit at E2 on Saturday morning before 10 o'clock, knowing all I have to do is go to God. Now I've got no tent. Right, I've literally got a bedroll rolled up on my back. First time I've ever been to an event in kit. Normally I arrive set up a tent and and I was like, "Now wing it, like it'll be fine. I know plenty of people. There'll probably be some tent space crash. It'll be fine." Ended up sleeping in a rocking chair for most of the night. Saturday night, and I walked all the way down the road. Had quite a cathartic moment at about 9 o'clock in the morning, so it was before timing. Yeah, and there's sheep everywhere. Stopped, fussed a little lamb. That was fun. Through,
you have to, really.
You have to. Like they were across the road, and like I just put my hand down. The little lamb came, and I gave the little lamb a fuss. And I've got some money for food. I've got my ice. I know I'd get my IC money, so if I need any food or alcohol or any tea or coffee, I could purchase that all IC. And my 18 rings will probably do me quite easily for essentially a night. Yeah. And I walked all the way down OC, and I'm ducking down, trying to keep myself away from the hedge. Yeah. So no marchers, no league, and nobody in Varushka see me. And I walk all the way down the OC campsite now. For those who have never been to Empire, we are talking now near, I would easily say, about 2 to 3 miles.
Oh, easily.
Easily that road from front gate all the way up. Yeah. So I get to the end road, I pitch right, and I get all the way down into God. Nobody seen me. And 2 people in front of me is my friend Gems, who plays she used to play my daughter at one point, but she now runs a bubble tea room in the Brass Coast. And I just went, Gems. And she turned around to him, what the you doing here? And I was like, shut up, don't tell anybody, I've got to pay yet. So I paid my ticket, and I got to walk in at timing, like up the little avenue between the tents, and literally everybody just went, oh my God. Like, I didn't know. The 2 events, the stories Rose has been talking about and selling me as a war hero. And like, Rosa runs, jumps off me, spin her around, and like, it's like a nice IC family reunion. And like, it was just generally nice because I thought Empire moves quite quickly.
It does.
Yeah.
Like the game world can move quite quickly. And I thought, oh, even 2 events, or like, E1 and E2. And I'm only coming in halfway through E3. Maybe people have forgotten about me. Like I haven't been any of the title races. I haven't done any big clever political things. Maybe I've fallen across. And I actually found it was further than that from the truth, including in other nations. Like the reaction I got when I walked into Orzel's tent. Like the Zoran pulls out fizzy apples, and we're sitting and we're drinking and we're talking. And I got to spend Saturday night generally catching up on people I hadn't seen in so long. And I think it was a little bit past the character and more the fizz reps, but it was also very much lots of nice character reunions. I was walking into places and people still remembered me. So I was like, I must have had some form of impact then. Like it was quite humbling. Really humbling.
I mean, it was quite incredible. I mean, one thing we've spoken about a lot is that moment where it was like our first ever time in, first ever LARP, and we were quite surprised that like everyone kicked off, they were all doing things, and like Robin and myself kind of looked at each other and like, I thought these people hadn't done this in 2 years, and that everything's going. One thing we never talked about though is actually like those magical moments when we drove in for the first time, Robin, right? Like E1 after the thing, and we're queued up. We've never been here before, and there's a queue to get in, and people are like getting out of their cars to like run and
hug people.
We saw so many like embraces like that, just people running and screaming and hugging. I saw people crying, and I was just like, oh my gosh, this is absolutely incredible. And we're not even time in yet. This is just everybody. This is such a lovely. And I mean, something you said, Pixie, at the start, you said about the fact that the LARP is your like family, your LARP family. And honestly, like that feeling after being just to the first event onwards, I mean, I'm just like, I can't wait to see all my family again soon, because it does feel like that.
Like I have people as far as in like the Netherlands, I have people in Scotland, in the States now. We'll try and see each other during the long dark, but like I don't really do player events because due to the nature of my work, I can't take time off for what we call the peak season, which is normally November and December and January. Because due to the nature of my work and being a manager, I literally can't. As a company, we're not allowed to take holiday. So, and that's when a lot of the player events happen. But I've got some of my closest friends like down in Southend, and we've had them up recently. I've got a lot of my close friends and family in Liverpool, a lot of the big base in Birmingham, and we still try and meet up, but I can go months upon months upon months upon months with only talking to them over a phone or over a computer. And then as soon as I see them, it's like nothing's changed. It's like there's a little lad named Jack. He's just turned 17. 16, sorry. It's going to be 17 this year, I believe. But I held him in a swaddle blanket at 6 months old at his first LARP. and I've got to watch him grow up, you know. And I had the same luxury again at Beyond Ragnarok recently with two of my players who've just had a baby, and they brought them to LARP. So it's you get to see new generations, you know, but like, because he's all the way down, like for instance with Jack, he's all the way down in Cornwall.
Yeah.
So I don't get to see him very often because it's so far away. We'll still talk nearly every other day. And he's like my little brother, you know. And as soon as I see him in the field, it's like we've never been separated. I just keep getting surprised that he keeps getting taller and taller, and now he's taller than me. It's just like, where is the little young lad
who is
no taller than my knee? And now you're taller than me, and you most definitely can have my old arse in the sword fight. You know, it's like that. But then it's the same with anybody else. There's some people I've known, and I can't family that I've known since '96. You know, they've watched me grow up, and it's nice. Like, so when I got married last year at one of the CP events, a little bit of a tangent. I actually had my stag weekend at a LARP.
Oh, and nice.
Yeah, it was a Friday night. We're all iced tea, and my friend Stu brought a bottle of Maker's Mark whiskey. And I can tell you at LARP, you can empty that 75 centiliter bottle in under 15 minutes by walking around going, whiskey.
Yeah.
But one of the 3 people I got to offer whiskey to are now like in their like 50s and 60s, and they've watched me grow up, you know, and now they're toasting with me on my stag night before I'm due to get married, you know. So it's now it's my turn to get that surreal feeling, you know. So it's and that's the joys of the hobby. Like, you'll find that you'll learn more from people in that field through 4 weekends a year, because you're seeing them display parts of their personality in their characters that they don't get normally to describe. It's like the old Shang Tzu saying, you know, you can eat with a man every night for 4 years. Until you hold him over the volcano, you won't truly know who he is. I find the same with LARP. I've learned more about people because they are so much more open, and then what they would do in their professional lives, what they would do in their home lives, because they are embracing that escapism and they're playing the horrid parts of their personality, like, you know, or they're playing the really overt nice part, or just molding it all as one. And, you know, there's that sense of freedom, especially at LARP. Like, it's creative freedom. You know, you can express yourself essentially how you want, as long as you're within the spirit of the game and the rule system. But you also can do things you wouldn't normally do. You can be that mighty hero taking the field, you know, slaying hundreds of orcs and feel that win. Or you can be the humblest person just selling cakes, because normally you're quite introverted and you don't deal with people.
That's the thing.
It's not therapy, but it's experimentation.
Yeah,
it's the emotional range as well. I mean, if you in your real life have to be very much in control during the day or in charge, you're able to be vulnerable at LARP. You're able to explore that, and the opposite as well. If you're like, you know, on the very bottom and you're having to take orders from people, you can go to these weekends every year and you can be in charge and you can give out orders and you can just, like you said, it's escapism. You can escape.
Varushka taught me how to be a good storyteller. I've always loved telling stories, but it really brought that out, just sitting around a big hearth fire with a load of people, and you look at them and go, comedy or tragedy, or a story with a moral, you pick. And then even if it's just stories you make up on the fly, those people don't know because they're just so engrossed by what you're doing. But it also, for me personally, because it's again the raising everybody up with you, I see with Varushka the hard way. You know, I have learned from my own mistakes as a character through rivalries that I've had. Like, again, I mentioned Phil earlier. He has been one of my biggest mentors in the nation, because there was a time where we had a big disagreement over a massive mithril payment to upgrade an armory. So it's like a lot of mithril. We are talking thousands of mithril, not just the normal. Yeah, right. So it's a lot of mithril and a lot of crowds and a lot of thrones, and then trying to fund that to make the army be large or do a cool thing. But now you see us. I got accused of being a Volodny, and he was one of the people that helped get my name cleared. because I'm not the same. I like to think Belikop's not the same person when he first came to Anvil. He's not as rash, mainly because he's grown up. He's learned from responsibility. He's learned from, and now he's a boy. He wants to not just do everything for his Vale, but he wants to make it better for all the Vales, and not just all the Vales and nations, but the entire empire. You know, and all of those lessons had to be learned in game. But the one thing I'm internally thankful is that it taught me how to public speak. Because normally, like as a performer, like you give me a guitar and I'm fine on stage, but you put me something in the Senate, and it's like a whole different league where the one little bit can undo you completely. But that's the same as any storytelling. But because I've had such good mentors, because I've had such good opportunities, because I've been surrounded by what I like to think as the best, you know, like everybody's going to be biased to their nation. Varushka is number one. Nobody's ever going to change me that. Sure. Even if I went off to the league or if I went off to Dawn, you know, Varushka would still always be the best to me, because for me, it's my half away from half, you know, it's my half and home. I know I can go there. I know, like on a Thursday night, I can sit around that fire. I can sit around with 6 people, none of us normally under like 35. We're all reminiscing on what LARP used to be like in the early noughties and the 90s. They're like going, oh, it was like this back in our day, you know, and this. But at the same time, we can just all sit there as friends, as family, and, you know, and drink. And that I think one of the biggest things for Varushka especially is because family is such a big dynamic and the same as like children are like held as the highest because they are our future. Like they literally are our future, you know. But families are tied into their loyalty together, but then you could strike up a loyalty with another Vale through marriage, and like your family just gets bigger. There tends to be a general, like, even though all families argue, all families fall out, there is one vibe which I think is really unique to Varushka, and that is the entire nation as a family. And I think I like to think it gets projected out and in when people visit. It's just like, oh well, I don't think it helps because we refer to each other as cousin all the time, or aunt,
that is confusing.
or
I found that is one thing I found. Like, oh, my cousin, I was like, wow, how big is this family?
It's because we are all one family. It also helps if you don't have to remember 1,000 names. You know what I mean? You can just go, oh, well, my cousin over there. Just grab the person. But like it's also like auntie or mother. You know, you might find these family figures. They might not actually be your family. Hell, we all call both our egregores grandmother. You know, and it is. You got Sega, the wise one, grandmother. You go, Zeta, the wolf grandmother, you know, and like, but you'll get cool stories from them, and like they do their job perfectly of enabling game. Like one of my favorite Taz moments is when she was explaining how egregores work, and it's like, imagine the spirit of your nation wearing somebody as a sock. Now, the problem is with me, I couldn't even get a sock that worked to wear. So she made her own joke about her own body. But then she'll come out with stuff like, we were talking about an egregore wedding service. And she was like, oh, well, you know, you need to take a plague wolf to a wedding. Every wedding needs a plague wolf just for the evening guests. Keeps them entertained. Or I like the children, they're like little maggots. You know, it's just fun stuff like that. And it's really playing to the brief. Now, I know a lot of the egregores across the field, and we are very lucky with ours. Ours, I will sell them again because both Taz and Sai are just so amazing people, both on the IC side and the OCs. Like because of my mental health condition, which I'm quite open about, and I have bipolar disorder. My emotions are like this anyway. And I had a massive dip, and Taz taught me aside to a 10, and she just went, "This is my egregore hat on now. Are you okay?" And it was just 3 minutes of one line of dialogue and me explaining why I'm upset, and I'm just going to channel this into role play. You know, luckily I play a changeling, so thanks, Elenaris.
Yeah.
So you know, we get to be summer storms,
Exactly.
and like I wasn't always a changeling.
Yeah, changelings are the best.
Yeah, you know, but like it's nice. It's a nice output, you know, and it's nice that sometimes that I don't have to be that uber grim character. And you know, I now get people coming and asking me for advice, which is really nice. It's a nice progression, you know, and it's just like everybody kind of wants to help everybody else, but they also got their own game. And but at the end of the day, the nation is sacred.
Yeah,
and like those around the hearth are sacred, and those that abide by the hearth and its rules are sacred. So it comes to a sense of loyalty, but you don't know you're loyal to that person until that moment hits and you see them drop down on the field, and suddenly there's like 6 barbarians in front of you, and you're running in and just impaling everything just to grab them and pull them back.
Yeah,
so they can be healed. But you might say 3 or 4 lines to them, 3 or 4 words throughout an entire day.
Yeah,
you know, but moments like that can just drive you.
Yeah, and it's I guess it's like the intenseness of just the game. It's all this stuff going on in a concentrated thing. Because I'm just having the wheels turning. Because I remember like saying to Robin when I think it was after we left E2 or when we did our like just recap podcast on E2, and we were like, it was crazy. We've only spent like. We spent like one weekend there. We came back and we were like, oh, and everyone was welcoming us back, and we were like, this is crazy. And then after this year, you know, we made so many friends on the field, and I'm like, cumulatively, we've spent like 8 days with these people, and I feel like I know them so well. But then what you were saying earlier, I think it's because it's not just even just us having this conversation now. You know, it's a conversation, right? But in the field, you know, you'll say things, and then you're like, because of the nature of the game, you're forced into, you know, we've got to show a range of emotion. You see these people be angry, you see them be sad. It's not just conversational. You see you hear their views on things. Like you said, you're out on a battlefield, and you know that they show you the type of person they actually are by doing something very courageous and running up and helping you and standing by your side and going, right, no, we can do this, and that you know them way more intimately than you would if you just sat down and had a conversation, a cup of tea with them, you know, like 3 times in a week or something.
It's the one thing I found new players worry about quite a lot, about just getting involved, and they're overthinking the rules instead of thinking about actually the role play itself. So thinking about, sorry, you might hear the shopping arriving downstairs.
You need it. You need shopping.
We need shopping. But like it becomes a natural flow when you learn about yourself as a character and what you're trying to portray. So once you understand what you, from paper to actually what you want to do, and it's not necessarily, oh, this is what my character would do. It's like, oh, this is how I should do it, because like this is my character, you know. And you find conversations, even some of the most difficult conversations and role plays, from intenseness even to like ecstatic joyness, comes so naturally. Again, I like to think of like the Orzel wedding at last event, and like it was a big deal, but I'm standing there and like the music was kicking off, and suddenly I've got one of my friends from Orzel pulling me in, and I'm dancing with them, like arms dancing around, you know. Normally my character wouldn't do that, but because my friends have invited me to this wedding, my Dornish family have invited me to, my Dornish cousins have invited me to this wedding, this is what you do. You're putting me in, who am I to refuse? Like, there's probably going to be a drink at the end of it, but fine, like let's go, you know. And it's just nice moments like that, and I think it's once people get over that fear and then just like act naturally, just do what you do in your normal world, like, but you're just not you.
So one of the concerns that people like ask us about is well, I mean, there's people that want to come and who are concerned, and there's a couple of people that are critical of the system, having never been. And one of the biggest ones is it cliquey? Is it elitist? Is it? And I think we've pretty much covered that it isn't already in this conversation. But just to highlight that is one of the most common things I will get asked is, I don't know anyone.
There definitely can be a 1%, but that's natural in any LARP. But the 1% is normally icy. It's never OC exclusionary. Again, it's a public event, so you'll risk the good apples to bad apples.
Hey,
there will be both.
You get 4,000 people, you're going to get a few, you know.
You're going to get a few good apples, you're going to get a few bad people. Yeah. But the good thing is you have the ability to remove yourself away. Yeah. And if you need the support, there is definitely a team that can support you, OC, But like the game is big. Like it is, especially I couldn't imagine going to Empire for my first LARP. Mm-hmm. Like my first LARP, there was maybe 300-400 people, not 3,000 people. Yeah. Or however big it's going to get this year.
I think it's going to get bigger as well.
Oh yeah, 100% is, because it becomes more popular because it's that old age friend of, I go home, I tell 10 of my friends. Those 10 friends come, they have a good time, and they go back and tell 10 friends. Naturally, you're not always going to keep people over, but like the nature of the game, it is a political PvP game. Yeah, it very much is. So you will have that. You'll have nations out for their own objectives. You may have senators trying to screw over other senators. You may have generals trying to screw over generals. You may just have Joe Marcher who doesn't like you. Yeah. It is what it is. It's part of the game. But then you find that in the real world.
Well, you do.
That's a good point, actually. Yeah.
I mean,
it's just.
Yeah, sorry. I've had people like send me messages and things like that saying, I go to this small LARP and Empire seems overwhelming, and I do say to them exactly what you just said about the good thing about if it's a big LARP, it means you don't like if there's a few people you don't want to interact with, you can just walk away. Also, if you don't want to do anything but just sit outside your tent, no one is going to come up to you and be like, hey, you should be playing some game. You can just sit there.
Yeah. There's a lot of good policies in like the game itself to support crappy behavior.
Yes.
Especially around like kit, for instance, like that was a big reputation the game had. And I just don't see it. What it is it's people, it's not people being critical or bullying, it's more people encouraging and enabling, and that is what LARP needs, and that's what Anvil needs as a whole. If I go out and I make 6 people's weekends better, or even one person's weekends better, just for something I've done, then that's made my weekend. If it's telling a story, if it's helping them get to somewhere they wanted to get to, even if it's walking and going, I know a guy. Or I know a citizen that can help you. I know, oh yes, I know that citizen, follow me, and it's just taking time out for yourself. And it is, again, you'll find that the game will be way more easy, it's way more accessible. Manage expectations, that's the biggest thing. Manage your expectations of what you want on the weekend. Nothing is impossible, and it is 100% player led. But if you manage your expectations, you won't be disappointed.
No.
And then just don't be. The other thing is, unlike other games, is because it's such a player-led game, it's not all going to come to you. The story arcs and stuff, they might be there, but unless you go and start pulling at that little thread, unless you go off to another camp or another nation and start causing trouble or causing joy, it's just the reactions from it will just create more game. And it's amazing. And like with the bad apples, for instance, there are hundreds of tents in Anvil. Hundreds of tents. You don't always have to be in the same tent.
No, you can leave. Yeah, exactly. You can.
Nothing's stopping you from walking away.
Yeah, and there's always a good excuse as well. In a big LARP, there's always a good excuse because people don't know. So if you want to walk away from a group of people, you're just like, oh, I've got a meeting, or I need to go to. I'm going on the skirmish, and you can just. It's so easy to distance.
Or if it's in the same situation, it's in your tent. There's nothing stopping you from asking somebody to leave.
Yeah,
exactly.
You can do that, I see, in 1,000 different ways.
Yeah.
You can either remove yourself, or I'll get the axe and the militia will get involved, and then I'm paying an assault charge because I'm not going to kill you, but I'm going to probably take your leg. It's through. Could you just please leave? Yeah. I want to talk to my group, and you're not in our group. And it's stuff like that. Like there is 1,000 ways to diffuse the situation.
There is,
be it good or bad. Like it just depends on your approach, and then just react to it.
Yeah.
That's why, like, again. why I love Varushka, because we'll give you the road.
Yeah.
We'll give you some bread, we'll give you some water. Off you go.
Is that?
I mean,
go on, Robin.
No, I was just going to say, like we're saying here, obviously, with such a big system, is that no matter what happens, and if you do ever end up in any of these uncomfortable situations, like you're saying, you can remove yourself, you can remove that person, but then going forward after that point, it's so easy to avoid them because there's so many things going on, there's so many storylines, and if the unlikely thing happened that, you know, there was a serious issue with someone, PD have so many things in place to actually help you.
So many, from egregores right up to the conduct team.
Yeah, you know? that's my point of call anyway. I just go straight to our egregore and just be like, egregore, help.
And that's their primary job, is to help players for both the good bits and the bad bits, you know. And if it needs to get taken further up the chain, there are policies, there are procedures, because again, PD is a company. It's not like the smaller club-based games, you know, and they have good working people who are out there, and their sole job is to make sure that people are safe for the weekend as much as what they can be, you know, and support in aftercare or support during an event. And as I said, sitting down with even just an egregore, or sitting down with like your fellow citizen, and again, it could be Joe Marcher, and you could be from the coast, and having a cup of tea and a chat and defusing can work wonders, absolutely wonders. Because it's a hobby and it's a game, and rule one, there is many rule ones, but the most important rule one is it is just a game.
It is, yeah.
It's literally just a game. It's everybody's Holly Bobs. You know, we all take time out, and it's one of the most expensive hobbies out there.
It's expensive. I guess you throw yourself into it. I mean, we talked about this last week, actually. Like, there was an event last year where I drove away from the event, and I was like, I didn't do it. I didn't do this, and I didn't do that. La la la. And then at the end, I was like, I remembered my mentality at the beginning of the week. At the beginning of the weekend, I was like, it was middle of summer. I was busy at work. I was tired, and I was there for a holiday. And you know what? And I kept thinking, you know what? Yeah, I should go and do that. But you know what? I'm going to sit down and have some drink and sit by a fire. And at the end of the weekend, I was like, oh no, I wasted the weekend. I'm like, why am I beating myself up? It's a holiday.
So Thursdays are like one of my favorite nights, and I always encourage people to, if they can, come on the Thursday, because you're meeting real people that are just people, and a lot of people are very welcoming and very friendly, and like in Verushka especially, we don't like seeing people on their own. So it's like, oh, just come sit around our fire, have a drink, have a chat. If you don't drink alcohol, fine. Look, we've got some soft drink. You like a soft drink? You know, we'd like a cuppa. And I think one of the most surreal ones I had was actually E4. And I'm sitting around the hearth fire, and I was camping OC for this one. And I was like right at the back of the Navarre as well, so like it's a bit of a walk. And I'm sitting there, and in the darkness, because it got really dark really early on that Thursday, before the torrential rains on Friday, and all I heard was one voice, Pixie. And I just looked up from the conversation I was having. I was like, what's my name? And I'm looking out in the gloom, and because there's no IC set up yet, like properly, there's just pitch black towards the road. And then I hear my name again, but it's more than one person. And then I hear it as a chorus, and I was just like, yes. And then suddenly I had like 15 people all shout my name. They're all my friends from the Wintermark who are on their birthday booze cruise on a Thursday night, and they've come over to see me and have a couple of drinks. And it was a nice moment, you know, because it was like, we're not getting, it was just so surreal. I was like, sure, I just heard my name.
Yeah.
And then like I was sitting drinking with my friend, and he was like, I'm pretty sure I just heard your name, mate. I'm like, did I hear my name? Oh yeah, that's definitely me, isn't it?
Just love that mentality.
So it's not going to be bad yet, is it? So it's only can be good.
I just love that mentality of like arriving at a camp, being like, okay, they're here somewhere. Should we just start saying their name, and hopefully a head will pop out a tent somewhere?
It's a Hansel and Gretel walking through the woods, calling out each other's names.
Yeah.
Instead of in the woods, you're just like in this field of tents, and it's just like I remember one time when I had to go find the secret tea house or the not so secret tea house.
Yeah,
and I honestly couldn't find it. I walked past that tent 3 times and ended up in Highguard. And I'm like, I don't think this is Urison. And I was like, and I just walked up to one of the random people. I think they were in the chantry, and I was like, where's this secret tea house I keep telling? And obviously you can imagine in like the big rows, I've got the Varushkan accent on, and I'm annoyed because I've spent 5 minutes walking around looking for it. And he was like, you're the third person to ask me today. Come with me.
Come with me. That's one thing you need to that's hard to get over as well, is that sometimes you got to keep reminding yourself, this is a tip as well, because I've done it so many times, it sounds like you do it as well. I will not ask people directions. Like you're just like walking, you're like looking, and then you need to remember, like, everyone is here. Everyone who is here is a role player, right? So it's okay to interrupt someone and be like, hey, I'm looking for this thing. Sorry to interrupt your really important meeting, and just be a changeling. Just be like, hey, I'm looking for this thing, They will show it to you. It's fine. Because I've done that.
I got invited over to Pizza Club, and like one of my friends, she was like, I know you walk so much in the field, and it's true. I do like over like 20 to 30,000 steps a day in Anvil easily. The amount I walk, because I just walk from half to half, just seeing people and talking to people. It's like part of my main game. And she's like, I really want to come out on one of your bimbles with you. It's like, okay, that's fine. You by all means come with me. And we were walking, and we went to Dawn because I was like, oh, we need to go to Wetherall and get Fizzy Apple. And like this is where we learn in my Vale. And before we did, my friend Harlequin, he's got his big antler, changing the antlers on, went, Bearlock just came out of a tent, dragged us into his little tent, and then he like gave us like hot drinks, and like for me he gave me a cigarette and things, and he was like, I know, because it's whilst still on my curse, he was like, I know you can't feel any joy unless you hear something sad or somebody is in a somber mood. So I want to tell you the story of how I lost my wife. And he goes into this super sad story, which obviously makes my character then really smile. And he was still trying to keep me there to keep getting drinks because it was just with friends, and like it's nice to role play. And we walked out, and then we went into Wetherall, and we got the hospitality there. And we went into the Winter Mark and got hospitality there. And like, because I've taken one of my friends with me, she's now just made 30 new friends.
Yes.
She was like, is this what it's like all the time? I was like, all the time.
Yeah.
All the time I just get grabbed and pulled into tents. Like, sit, drink, or sit and eat. Have you eaten today? It's one of the biggest questions I get. So I'm notoriously bad for eating at LARP. I just forget. I'll normally have breakfast, and I try and have a hot dinner and eat.
Yeah. The happy thing about being Verushka, then, if every tent you go into, you got to eat something.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, it's, but I've got a lot of people in that field that go, have you eaten? And it's like, maybe. It's like, that's a maybe. Come with me, and then I get fed, and that's a nice attitude. And I find that's becoming more of a common thing as well. And that's not just Varushka. That seems to be looking out for other people is big and clever, big and clever. Yeah. But again, Varushka, we do it all the time.
As like so many people do it as well, don't they? There's that real like the fact that obviously we need to focus on things like self-care, making sure we're actually looking after ourselves when we are in daily life anyway, but especially at these sort of big events. But I find that every event I've been at, so many other people just want to look after you and help you and make sure, yes, have you had something to eat? Have you had something to drink? Have you
Remember,
sat down?
Beer is not hydration.
Says who?
Oh, prove me.
I've said that
95% water in this.
One of my favorite things would be going to bars and just like putting down like a throne in a bar and going, bam, there's my tab set for the weekend. I am drinking here. Like I've got it rolled over at the Artisan Arms and the Winter Mark so many it's unreal. And I think it got to a point where Mother Fame was like, we've just lost count how much money you keep giving us, so just come and just get a drink.
I'm rubbish. I'm a total sucker for just like little pretty things or kids selling things or mystery bags. So I spend my coin like really quickly. But I've realized now that a lot of places, seeing a lot of like IC posters and things, they take stories as currency. And I have gathered some really lovely stories. So my goal is to go to one of these places and perform one of these stories as dramatically as I can so I can get free food and drink.
And you know what? Again, the best thing about the game, you can solely do that. You know, you can spend all weekend. One would assume you're a troubadour. We call them standards.
Yeah, I can totally see Robin. I can totally see Aaron becoming a troubadour because you.
I was too scared to at first because I was like, oh, a troubadour sounds like amazing. I could go and I could be a troubadour. And I was like, oh, but real life, you know, because so Dungeons and Dragons, I always play a bard. Real life, I can't sing and I can't play an instrument. So I thought, oh, well, I can't really do that part of the game. And I'm like, I can stand up and tell stories in front of people. That sounds amazing. So maybe into the troubadour side. I mean, that's what, because we had a conversation today actually about where would we be if we weren't if we had to leave Dawn, like where would we want to go? And for me, it was Verushka, because Verushka is exciting. It's the stories of like the monsters and the rules, and I'm like, oh, I could go and I could be like a bard in Verushka.
Oh, easily. You can be because we have several different archetypes. You know, you've got the warden who goes out and essentially they protect the veils and the roads and they ward it away. And their jobs are, some may kill and slay monsters, some may just shoo them away. Some may even talk to them and find out the monster's point of view, and then they become friends of a monster. And suddenly that monster's not attacking a veil because again,
that's what I do.
Even monsters have feelings.
Actually, so the warden is that tied to a skill, or is it?
No, it is literally just an archetype. Same as the wise ones. You can be, anyone can be a wise one. The advantage of, well, I wouldn't say an advantage, but like one of the good things about being a wise one is that's how our senators are elected. Normally, our egregores go out to children and get them to ask questions, like get them to give them the questions, and then the people who want to be senator will come into a tent. And now tradition, which some of us have been bringing back, is you tie a blindfold around so you can't see who it is, because they're never meant to, those who want to be senators, the candidates are never meant to address the wise ones. They're talking to the egregore who is asking the questions, and then we are judging them on their answers. Now, these questions could be anything. When I became senator, one of my favorite questions I got asked is, so you are alone in the woods. You can either have one of three things: a lantern, a cloak, or a staff. Which one do you pick? And it can be as simple as that. For me, I went cloak. Because a cloak will keep you warm, and you can find a lantern. You can make yourself a staff.
You can survive, yeah.
Some may go, they pick a staff so they can ward away walls. Some may go lantern so they can see. Me, it's a cloak because that will keep me warm, it'll keep me alive, and I can find those other things out in the walls. Yeah. But then you've also got the Volhoffs. Now, the Volhoffs are one of my favorite sides of the archetypes because they are our spooky wizards. Jesus, the mage casters. You normally have a hat or a hood. Hoods are big in Volhoffs. You know, you'll find a lot of magicians and ritualists within Varushka are all Volhoffs. In fact, there's even an item in game called the Volhoffs robes, which allows you to join any other coven. You know, and like that's how integrated they are. But then there's also, for me, I don't think it's really an archetype, but I do feel it should be, and that is the humble Schlachter. The Schlachter is what we call those that fight in the battles, that fight in the armies. You know, the Golden Axe is a Schlachter. The infamous Iron Helms is a Schlachter. You know, the Northern Eagle is a Schlachter. And we've only got 3 armies at the moment, so. You know. But everyone is deep and rich. You know, they used to be a thing. It's sign coming back of when Varushka marched to the field, because Varushka as a nation has changed quite a lot to what it used to be. It's not like a shield wall like the Mark anymore.
I was in like meta player base
as a fighting style. The player base has changed because we've had groups come and go. You know, we've had characters die. So where it used to be like very heavy shock infantry, a bit like lancers in Dawn, it would just be bam, smash and pound. It's now become more of a mobile skirmish force, you know, where we're all trying to work together on the field and try to keep each other going. And then there's some of us that see big monsters and like, run up with the big monsters, war beasts, stuff like that, drakes.
You guys were a blur on E4. Yeah, like I think that was the only time we fought with you last year was E4. I think.
Yeah, like they were terrifying, absolutely terrifying. When we came, because it was the end of the battle. That's the only time I actually remember being there with Varushka, and it was towards the end of the battle. We're coming through into the main field, and there were so many barbarians, and there's everybody from Varushka, and all you hear is them whispering, and this sort of like whisper of them all just being like Varushka, and it was getting louder and louder, and I was like, this is terrifying. I'm so glad they're on our side.
It's the thing. I haven't taken field in a while. A lot of that is because, again, at PD, you can at Empire, you can choose whether you go on these big battles, and it's not cowardice if you don't. You know, I think it was 2019 was the last time I took field. So I haven't taken field this side of COVID, and that's due to IC reasons. I became a senator, so I took a step back because I wanted to see the younger blood take more of the control, especially like a lot of people forget about with generals, especially like it's even as though they're the ones deciding on what conjunctions they're going on the military council on the Friday night, and people look to them to lead. They have no authority on anybody there. Even the field marshal has no authority. I think Matt P summed it up the best. It's not you have to follow me, it's will you follow me, you know? And people always look to the generals to do it, but there's nothing stopping. I've seen about 3 times now where somebody's been a field marshal and they're not a general, you know, because the council have gone, I know this really good person who's very invested in this fight. Whose lands it's in. It could be, say for instance, you could be in the Barons, and it could be an old Dornish house who's lost it because their house originally from the Barons, but they're a notable figure on the battlefield and people rally around them because of their presence. They're not following commands of that people because nobody wants to be told what to do at LARP. It's not why we go. So it is all about inspiring.
You got to encourage people to actually listen, because hey, if you want to do well and win and not die, then it's probably a good idea to follow the orders.
A general's responsibility is simple: the commanding of the army that they're involved in, and they have the option of turning up to council. A general doesn't even need to go to the military council. You know, every general wants to be there because it's a big game of maths and numbers. And it's from somebody who's done that side of the game. It is a fun part of the game, and you get what you get. You get to be more, and you get to meet more people at different things, like meet board seat holders and senators, you know, and then try to keep your senators on your side, but also then start trying to talk to other senators and formulate all of these plans for the giant Risk game, because it is a giant game of Risk. You know, like it all happens. We all submit, they all submit orders, and then it all goes. You know, but then I've done the Senate side as well, and like that's a completely different side of the game, because that is just parliamentary politics. But sometimes knives come on the Senate floor, who knows? Or Timothy jumps a barrier, for instance, and tries to murder somebody. Self-declared Queen of Bregisland, and I'm so happy he's in Varushka now. I'm not gonna lie.
The players in Varushka now.
Awesome. I love the lad's pieces. I loved him as Timothy, but now he's playing a Varushkan Cambion, and he's been doing a lot of player events beforehand. Cool. He has the purple Cambion. But like it's these things, like when we used to turn up to Battlefield, you know, and before like that wait and all the speeches happen at the Sentinel Gate, we all hear normally from as soon as they hit Horizon is hear the sound of the Schlachter coming, Varushka, and like you get everybody shouting Varushka, but you've got like one person shouting, hear the sound of the Schlachter coming. You know, and it is that intimidation, fear, but it's also pumping you up. You're ready to run through that sentinel gate and start taking names, you know.
Honestly, when they started doing that on the field, because this was the end of the field, and we had spent all of our energy and then some, and it was the final bit, and we thought, we're so close to getting through here. We just need to hold this back longer. And then when they started chanting that, I just thought, oh, I can go another hour. I can take all of them right now, you know, and it's just that feeling of empowering from them.
It's when the adrenaline kicks in. It's just like, oh, okay, so I've got like 100 people here who are getting me pumped. So now I'm pumped. Let's just go. Let's keep going. We're not going to give up, you know. And you can find that across the field in different ways, you know. Like the glorious charges of dawn, you know, or when you get like the shield walls in Wintermark just dropping down and locking in, and like give no ground gets called, or the bill blocks from the marchers go down, and especially when they got like mercenary bill blocks in, and you just watch 70 pole arms just start taking apart people, you know. It's a moment I like to think of as a Russell Crowe film, and it's not Gladiator, it's actually Robin Hood. Controversial opinion, I really like that film. But there's a bit where they're in a castle at France, and they've run up onto the gatehouse and they've thrown all these bags of oils on there, and you got all of the longbowmen, and like the shields go up, and you just hear Russell Crowe go, "Makes a mighty fine pincushion," and they all shout King Philip's arse, and they're all shouting out like loosing arrows. It's that type of feeling where you've got like 30 people all involved in one thing, and suddenly that can inspire almost hope across the entire line. Like some of the worst situation battlefields I've been in, like we've been winning the battle, but like the retreat back is the worst part.
That's the most dangerous bit. Yeah.
Like many moons ago, when the Blackthorn's army was in danger, the Empire actually pulled off the near impossible. So we had a timed battle. We had to get to an area. We had to hold that area for 45 minutes.
Oh, that's horrible.
Yeah. If any barbarian stepped in the area we were in, automatic fail. They only had to be in there for 5 seconds, automatic fail. Right. And this was saving the Blackthorn's army. And the whole idea was, we need this army where it is. We can't let because at the end of the day, all those members of all those people in the armies, they're still citizens, you know. So they might be off-screen citizens, but people who pledge themselves to the Empire every day are going to die, you know. And you had like it was this big circle, so we had like, I think we had 7 minutes to get on, 7 minutes to get off, you know, and it was this whole time crunch thing. And you had Verushka ringing one side of the woods, you had the Wintermark the other side, you had the marchers trying to hold different parts of the lines, and you had the Navari mixed in as well. So it was just constant shifting from side to side. It ended up stop fighting as nations and fighting as an empire. But we did it. We managed to get on. We managed to achieve the objective. The Field Marshal called it, and we pulled off. And it was that retreat where I saw so many of my friends, like Icy and the Marchers, die, because they're holding back the bill blocks. Half of the nations that are out there already booked it out of the woods, and they're on the main field where there's nobody. And there's some of us trying to literally go back and grab people, but we were seeing more and more people falling, like, and being dragged back by the barbarians. And suddenly there's 30 barbarians in front of you. What are you going to do? You're going to go down swinging and try and save your friend, or are you going to do the smart, wise choice and pull back and try and get out of that and fight for another day? Like, one of the most, I'd like to say, emotional parts of that battle I found a young marcher, and he was mortally wounded, and he was crying out for help. So I just threw his arm over my shoulder. I took him to a tree, and I was like, "What can I do for you?" And he was like, "I need you to find X and bring them to me." Now, luckily, I knew who X was, because she was a general in the Marchers and one of my friends. So I spent 10 minutes of that battle trying to find one person in all of that anarchy, whilst these lines are fragilely holding on, jumping in, trying to clear out a load of barbarians so a line could reform and hold again. And then I found her and I pulled her all the way back, and she was like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "I found one of yours. He is dying, and his last request is to get you here. I made a promise. This is my hard choice." Again, Varushkan. I made that hard choice of I abandoned from what I was doing to help this citizen so he could say goodbye. And it was just and I walked off the field and I'm just like it's just beautiful moments like that. Absolute beauty.
Yeah, no, those those battles are something else, and you do get those just crazy moments. Actually, it's funny you saying about like the retreat being dangerous. That's the time where I get like nervous. Like it's usually when the objective is either failed or whatever, and usually you don't know at that point, especially if you're not in charge or whatever, what the hell's going on. You're just being told, right, we're leaving now. And yeah, usually, especially for us, because we're usually heavy and shielded, we're usually like, right, we're staying here while everyone else retreats.
Yeah, we're always the last ones out.
Right,
it can always turn into an Alamo situation.
Yeah, exactly. Dawn is staying here while Navarre get the fuck out, and I'm like, I would like to get the fuck out too, actually, but it's okay.
Can we go too?
That's not glorious.
That's not glorious. Hey, this is because you're talking about like glory. That's one thing that like out of character and in character people get a little bit confused at when they maybe if they're like new to hearing about Dawn. People will just be like, "Oh, that's not very glorious," and what they're talking about is like honorable. And I'm like, no, I was like, it's not glorious to die for no reason. It might be honorable. Leave the honors, the Wintermarkers, and the Jotun. No, I'm out of there. If it's lost cause, that ain't glorious. See you later.
It's pretty glorious just to book it at this point, right?
Yeah.
Glorious.
Grabbing my friends and running.
Yeah. Hey, if you
my glory was getting my family out alive.
Yeah, well, exactly. There's more glory in that than anything else. We're almost at time without taking a break. Are you okay to? Because I just want to ask you about kit. Are you all right to carry on for another 10 minutes or so?
Yeah, I'm okay to carry on with that. That's fine.
Sure. Yeah, because you a lot of people will like new players. One of the big questions or the big queries you get from Empire is that, like we brushed on briefly, that people might see it as like, oh yeah, the kit standards are really high, and it's what's Verushka like for getting into kind of entry point level kind of kit wise?
Entry point of kit, a lot of stuff you can buy in the field. Like we're actually one of the only nations to have hero pants in our brief, which is the almost like the Roos Viking style trousers that have got like the lace ups at the bottom. That's actually in our brief. And you can get them from pretty much any trader in the field, any online LARP trader. Just don't go to Viking store because friends don't tell their other friends to shop there. There's not anything really past the fact you just won't get your order. They're notorious. The other thing is you can get like traditional Polish shirts with like the embroidery on it. So you can get them pretty cheap. It's a very traditional Eastern European vibe to it. You've also got like the triangle hats. Again, you can pick them up by IC and OC of money.
Yeah,
you can pick them up in the field. I know somebody in the Wintermark that makes them, but like the triangle hats are traditionally ours.
Nice.
And then it's all about normally coats and cloaks to refer to what you're trying to achieve. In fact, I can get a coat.
Oh yeah, show us the Varushkan coats.
Bear with me because I need to go into the big old LARP cupboard.
As he takes the elevator down to the next level.
No, I have a really cool cupboard that has essentially a casket inside of it. You slide out, and that stores a lot of my kit. So this is what some may call a traditional Varushkan coat.
Nice.
This is quite old. This one. This is like my first piece of kit. So it's quite heavy duty. It's covered red. We are big on trim. You can pick this up for dirt cheap. Absolutely so cheap. And then there's like the fur trim. That's all faux fur for me. But the best thing about my coat is fleece line. Fleece line, canvas outside. But this was made by a friend of mine, but you could easily just pick up like a red canvas or a red woolen coat. In fact, I've got another woolen coat. Hang on.
Well, that's a good thing with trim, right? Is that it's easy to attach on. You know.
Oh yes. So this one, I actually got from Dust Shop in the field, and good thing about Lara, she loves trading stuff for stuff. So I'll have my stuff for stuff, and I traded her a load of old kit.
Oh, nice.
Originally, it was just a robe, so I cut it down the middle. It's very big, but I've got to add my embroidery to the side of it. But it's just a nice big woolen robe. So it's all about keeping yourself warm.
Yeah, I mean, I got to admit,
especially
at E1, you can tell the Varushkan players are more smug than anyone else.
Yeah,
really are.
I like to say us and the Orcs.
The
Orcs die more in the summer than we do.
But
that's because of the mask.
Yeah.
But like it's just entry level kit for Varushka's fairly easy.
Yeah.
Luckily, again with PD, there is essentially it's like they've got their own Pinterest pages and things. So you can find it. Yeah, there's Pinterest pages.
I'll put the link down in the description for everyone for Pinterest boards.
A lot of them have been created by players as well. In the early days, obviously the look and feel section's quite in depth.
Yeah.
But the best way I found is asking people on the Facebook group.
Yeah. That is
because everybody will help point you in the right direction, and it's not to make your kit look better for them. It's to make you feel better, because we all feel better in nice things.
Yeah,
like that's in the real world as well, right?
Exactly. Yeah,
it's true.
Nice things.
I mean,
I feel good.
It's difficult because some people will be like, I've had people like message being like, oh yeah, I don't think my kit's gonna be good enough. And I'm like, a lot of the pictures of me, especially because how hot E3 and E4 were, I'm like, I'm literally just in a cotton shirt and trousers, and there's pictures of me, and that's all I wore all weekend. I'm like, that's all you need. But at the same time, I still spend hundreds of pounds on shiny armor because I want to look good. I don't need to, but
so like my summer wear, as I like to call it. Now these big cardies, they look very icy. I've got a red one of these.
Yeah.
So what I'll do is I'll wear normally a dark shirt underneath it, my big hero belt made by Brian at Umbra Armouries. Yes, I'll do some shameless plugging on this.
Do all the plugging you want.
And then like normally again like my chain. I'll show you the chain because we was talking about this earlier.
Yeah, we were talking about it before, weren't we?
This, as you can see, I can hold in one hand. Because it's that light. It is alien neoprene. It is split at the front. It is made. This is bespoke, so this is actually made to fit for me.
Nice.
There's a lot of stretch in it because of the neoprene.
Yeah.
So I'll hold up to the camera once I get one of the arms up. So as you can tell, it's actually made like actual chainmails.
Oh
but
wow!
It's every 4 rings. There's neoprene.
It's neoprene.
Neoprene.
Right, you've got stretch.
So clever.
Nice and stretch. Yes, but this is so long. I call it mithril because it basically is. For Lord of the Rings nerds, because it is light as a feather.
Yeah.
Like I've gone through those years of wearing 45 kilos of chainmail, but that's my entire chainmail shirt.
Yeah.
In one hand.
Yeah, I mean
that comes down to my knees, covers my arms, covers my full body. It's got the belt buckles on the front, and this was made by Andy and Matt at Armchair Armoury. Not cheap. I'm not going to lie.
Well,
but it is worth every penny.
Hey,
every penny.
I mean, like you said, like 45 kilos of chainmail is not overly cheap sometimes either. You know, if people are looking
100% no.
If people are looking at like riveted steel chainmail, which is going to cost a fortune and weigh a ton, I think I prefer to get the lighter stuff, to be honest.
Yeah, that was me sliding the casket. I don't know. When we moved into this house, it used to be a boiler cupboard.
Yeah. Keeping those plague wolves at bay. Just.
No.
It's not a kit casket. It's an actual casket. It's getting pushed back in.
No. Hang on.
Oh
wow! Yeah.
Oh, I want one.
Yeah, that's what you need.
So I don't know what they use this for. but it's not what I use it for now.
Yeah,
it used to clearly be an airing cupboard.
Yeah,
but
kid space.
And I saw that, and I looked at my wife, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm claiming this as my office."
Yeah.
So all of the LARP stuff gets put in here.
Yeah, too right.
And I was like, I'll just put all my kit in that.
Yeah, no, you need a room.
So,
Mine now.
Yeah, you need a room.
Yeah, it gets to that. It gets to that point where when you get a room, because then you get stuff.
Yeah.
Like boxes and totes and bags, and like that's not even the camp stuff.
Yeah,
like I've got an entire cupboard downstairs outside, lean-to where all of my tent is, and chairs, and we upgraded and had camp. We now have camp fishing beds. Oh, I'd recommend them so much. Yeah. They're off the ground. They're very comfortable, and you can adjust them.
We went real bougie, didn't we?
I didn't even consider sleeping on the ground.
First ever LARP, we were like, no, we are not sleeping on the ground. Like, yeah, we came into. I think if we had like started maybe in like our 20s or something like that, or our teens, we probably would have. Yeah, fine, sleep on a sleeping bag. We were like, no, we're not spending a weekend with sleeping on the floor. So we bought some like bed frames, didn't we, off Amazon? And they're like,
well, yeah, it was like 70 quid for these like metal bed frames that they pack away and you pull them out. We already had 2 like single mattresses that we could put on them. So like that is the best way to keep warm anyway. Like the fact that obviously we're both there, it's a lot nicer that way. We're not like on a sleeping bag on the floor.
Blankets, or my favorite thing is my wife found these like foldable like mats that have got like tin foil on, almost like aluminium foil on one side.
Oh right, yeah.
And they're normally made for camping. You lay one of those under your bed, and then what you do is you put a nice blanket on your bed, then you go in it, and then generally duvets.
Because we just take the duvet.
Yeah, like that's our preferred method of sleeping. I have been there and done that with the one-man tent, a sleeping bag. I've used my kit bag as a pillow. There's nothing beneath me, just tent. And I have, in my later years, come to regret that. But they were fun at the time.
Fun at the time. There's nothing better than being like well rested and being like, ready for the. And you feel bad because sometimes you like you get up and you're like, oh, I'm refreshed, ready for the day, and then some poor person has like had a terrible night's sleep in the out of character area or something like that. They're like, oh, I was so sore and wet. It was so wet last night. I slept
on a rock all night. Cool.
There was water coming in, and like no.
If it's in people's means, I always recommend, even if it's just a camp bed, get one of those. The only reason I never say like the blow up beds, A, because they're prone to come down on you during the night, and B, one little puncture in your car where like one little snag from a bag and that's done for the weekend. You haven't got a bed. At least if you have like even like the almost like the old medic style camp beds. So they come like camp chairs. You fold them out. We used to have those, and those stretcher beds were amazing. But then we got the fishing beds. So, but like if anything I could sell to anybody is Camp Smart. My wife has actually done some of her YouTube videos, Fancy Fox, where she's actually got guides to actually camp. So from cheapy camping to expensive camping, like she's done videos on all of them, and how and like the history of LARP and bits like that. Like she made them a few years ago, and I know especially the camping videos have really helped a lot of people, and that's one of the biggest feedback she gets is about camping on a budget, sort of like a one-man pop-up tent, to camping with a bell tent. There's got a bit of sewn in ground shit, you know.
Yeah, because sometimes people don't they don't know what to priority, because like LARP camping is different from going out normal camping, because we have camping friends who were like in the scouts, and when we started doing this, we're like, oh yeah, we're taking this, and like, why are you taking that? And I'm like, because we're not like putting on a backpack. I'm like, I can put it in my van and drive to it. So yeah, I'm taking a full bed with me and duvet.
Yeah.
I know somebody at LARP who uses one of the wilderness hammock beds.
Oh right.
And like that's their tent for the weekend. So like they'll string up this hammock, and then they've got the oversheet, and they'll leave their boots underneath the hammock, and it's such a surreal sight when you walk around the garden and you just see a hammock between 2 trees.
No.
Whatever's fun.
I couldn't do that. Yeah. I like my bell tent too much.
Whatever's fun. Awesome, Pixie. Well, we're well over time, so we won't keep you any longer. But we appreciate you coming on and sharing your knowledge on Varushka. I'm hyped about Varushka now, actually.
Yeah.
It's because we are number one.
I mean, you're close.
No, but it's a place of creepy, cool stories and moral lessons, and people who will always help other people. That's the one thing I found. The last example I will give is, because I haven't really seen it in any other nation. One of my friends, CJ, who's a boyer, what they do is they put in a big wood order for the weekend, and people pay into it. And I mean, this pallet box, this huge box full of logs, arrives on site, gets dropped down in the middle of camp. Help yourself.
That's a great idea.
Like that. But like, there's a whole company. If you go on the Varushkan Facebook page now, you'll see their post about it. It's just little things like that sells the community we have. So thank you for having me.
Fantastic, no problem at all. Like I said, it's I'm hyped for Varushka, and hopefully see you on the field. I'm sure you'll be over to see the Orzells.
You can always come. You can always come over and have a couple of drinks at the half.
Yeah. Well, technically, I think the Orzells.
Starts with Belikov and Sunday will put in my right direction. Like, I'm the only Belikov in the nation.
No, we'll wander over. Excellent, Pixie. Right, we'll say goodbye to the podcast, everyone. Right.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Thank you very much for listening. If you enjoyed this show, or if you have questions about Varushka, Empire LARP, or LARP in general, or just want to say hey, leave us a comment down below. Make sure that you are subscribing and following so you know when a new episode is posted. Until then, you can go check out some of our other episodes that we have done. Until that next time, though, we love you and stay safe.